David Kirkpatrick from Techonomy Media and the famous author of The Facebook Effect will interview Andrew Mason, the CEO and founder of Groupon. And I'm happy to introduce you to Groupon once again. Andrew was here last year, and a lot of things have happened in this last year. Groupon has expanded its business in vouchers, not only doing vouchers in local commerce, but also for travel and for products. And of course, Groupon is available on mobile. And probably the biggest event last year was obviously Groupon's IPO in November. And I would like to start, I just need a clicker, thank you, with a quick introduction, a quick note from our lawyers. We have to do this. We can only share numbers until including the Q3 of last year. That's what you have to do when you're a public company. So here's the fun stuff. Alone in Q3, gross billings grew last year to $1.157 billion US. So that's a almost 500% growth year over year. We grew subscribers from 21 million, which many startups would be proud to have, to more than 143 million. We have featured 250,000 merchants. We saved $1.1 billion. We had 1.6 million manicures, 4,500 eye laser surgeries. And what makes us especially proud is we have 70 million words written in editorial to describe our deals, and we cleansed 44,000 colons. In German, das sind Darmreinigungen. With all this, to David and Andrew, thank you very much.
Well, you don't start that many tech sessions with colon cleansing, I'll say that. Thank you, Mark. And for those of you who don't know, Mark is a big investor in Groupon. Maybe that was obvious, but maybe he should almost be up. I might even have questions for you, Mark. So thank you, Andrew, for being here. There's a lot of interest in Groupon, obviously. That's why the room is packed. But, you know, I think it'd be good to start out with you just talking to us a little bit for a couple minutes about how we should think about where Groupon is today, because there has been a lot of confusion, I think, is needless to say.
Sure. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Groupon has certainly evolved quite a bit since we launched the business 3 years ago. We started out just offering a single deal of the day in each city. Today, we're offering often dozens of deals per day, not just in local, but also in product and in travel and other categories, as Mark mentioned. And we've really evolved to become this curated deal marketplace more than just a daily deal. As we go wider into new categories, I think where our passion lies remains in local commerce. We think that 5 years from now, the way that people buy and sell things locally is going to be fundamentally changed by technology, largely largely catalyzed by finding a business model that actually works for local in the form of Groupon, as well as the sea change of consumer behavior as post-PC and mobile devices become a more popular way to connect to the internet. So we think that Groupon, with 150 million subscribers, 35 million customers, 250,000 merchant relationships, and a product that gives these merchants what they want more than anything in the world, which is customers in the door, is well positioned to just change the way that people shop locally and to give more buying power for consumers while simultaneously enhancing every transaction for merchants and helping them do a better job at managing inventory, get more customers in the door, and ultimately make more money.
Okay, do you think of Groupon as a technology company? I mean, you just said local marketing, advertising,
yeah,
transformed by tech. Because I don't always understand quite how you are a tech company.
It's a cyborg.
Maybe it doesn't need to be, yeah.
It's a cyborg, so it's a technology company with an important human core. I mean, the best way to think of it is if everybody from Google or Facebook decided that they were going to go to the beach for a couple weeks, it'd probably be I mean, exaggerating the use case, but it'd probably still continue to operate okay. If all our people went to the beach for a couple of weeks, we would just go to hell immediately, because our content and a lot of our value is the quality of our deals, and those deals are procured by having thousands of people in 47 countries in the field talking to tens of thousands of merchants every day. So there's a major human component to our business that I think people often, as much as people people say Groupon isn't a technology company, but then what are we? Well, if that's the case, we're an operations, a sales and marketing company, and that becomes one of the things that people often overlook when they talk about how easy the model they think the model might be to replicate. Sorry that this is kind of a long answer.
No, it's okay.
The first phase of the business, I think, is this hybrid technology human company. But in order to unlock the next phase, which is stuff like real-time local commerce that we're doing with Groupon now, with Groupon Rewards, and some of these other services that we're introducing, it's more of a technology product, and it requires the critical mass of consumers, merchants, and operations that you acquire in the first phase, which requires a huge human component. So we've tried to set ourselves up from the beginning to be good at both.
So in that sense, you're becoming more of a technology company over time. But it's interesting because I just had breakfast with, or met with Nicholas Zenstrom, who was making a really interesting point that's going to come up on the session we're doing with him later today. That the change in the landscape in the world is that the technology services that effectively constitute the back end of a company have become so available through Amazon Web Services, just to name an obvious example, but that in effect, it's now all about focusing on product. And I hadn't really thought of your company this way, but I suppose you are. I have actually written that I didn't even think you were a technology company, but maybe you're saying it doesn't matter because you have technology available that no companies in the past ever could have had available. So you have a model for creating product and reaching the customer that just optimizes based on what's available, in a sense, right? But, I mean, you know, there certainly has been so much skepticism about Groupon, and I have participated in it, I confess. So, what's your basic point of view on that? I mean, does it upset you to open the newspaper and, you know, Forbes, where I wrote my thing, and say, what are these people saying? Or do you kind of think, I mean, you were joking to me before, but what's your point of view on the way you've been perceived, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I thought when, so what happened is we filed our S1, and people went from kind of being, I thought, overly cheerleady. Like, it was weird then to see how uncritical people were in their praise, to then being everybody kind of piling on. So the truth is, I mean, we're not a perfect company, and we'll always be iterating and learning. But I mean, obviously, I think that a lot of the criticism was unfounded. I think the most frustrating thing was just being in the quiet period and being unable to have a dialogue.
Were you in a quiet period? I didn't think so.
We were, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So why don't? So I mean, probably the better way to answer that question is
that was a joke, but I'm sorry.
Is for you, not that question, but the question before, is for you to focus on whatever you're skeptical about in particular, and then I can speak to that specifically.
Yeah, I will in a minute. Actually, I don't want to grill you, but I am curious about a lot of things. And I wanted to ask the audience, how many people in this room feel like they don't really understand why Groupon is such a big deal? Okay, not that many. How many people in this room are basically skeptical of Groupon based on what they've read? Okay, well, maybe a quarter. Okay, that's actually, you got a pretty good percentage going in your favor here. I'll tell you, my basic problem understanding the company is twofold. In terms of understanding why, I mean, my explanation of why it turned that way when your S1 came out is this, twofold. One is, it seems like your business is replicable by others, and it's hard to understand what the sustainable competitive advantage that you have is, and I'd love to hear you address that. And then the second piece that sort of really reinforces that worry for those of us who observe you is seeing the massive amounts of money that you, not you so much, but your other investors took out of the company before the IPO, which has never been done before in any company that I don't think anybody here has ever heard of. I think, many hundreds of millions of, pre-IPO money invested, removed by early investors. And then, Eric Lefkofsky has a bad reputation. I'm sorry to say it, that's a fact. And there have been very, very damning articles about his business practices. So, when you look at a questionable business model, and then you look at investors who are taking their money out real fast, it's like, well, maybe they don't even believe in it. I think those two things together are the primary reasons why me and many of us have said, wait a minute, what's going on here? So,
okay, great. So if I can pull this off and address those two, will everyone that raised their hand love Groupon again? Okay, because it's pretty easy, I think. So let's take the first. Let's take the first one. Competition. You said that you don't understand where the competitive barriers to entry are. So I'll say what I think they are. But before I do that, I'd say it doesn't matter that you don't understand. Meaning. I don't mean.
Hey, if they're there, that's my job is to just understand. I always change my views.
Because we can look at the output, we can look at the data, and we can start there and then work backwards. So what the data shows is that the model is easy to replicate, and the barriers to entry are extremely low. That's clear. There's thousands of Groupon
I didn't say that.
funds.
I mean, I think you have certain. But anyway, no. There's just a lot of companies doing what you do. That's
thousands.
That's given.
It's insane. Yeah. So I mean, people look at it and they say, this is an email list. I can do this. I can make money in this business. But I think equally evident from the data is that the barriers to success are high. And if you look at the fact that if you look at the ratio of people who have tried this to have actually succeeded, it's probably a lower ratio than any other business model. And there's only a handful that have had any success at all. Look at the large technology companies that have tried it. Many of them have either pulled out entirely or reduced their participation in the space significantly. Facebook OpenTable, Yelp, Travelzoo, OpenTable.
It's funny because it was one of the things Facebook thought they were going to do from the very beginning and would potentially have become one of their biggest businesses. They never were successful in launching it early, and then when they finally did, after you showed that it was a kind of a good business, then they pulled out of it right away. So you're right in that sense. Yeah.
Right, and I think.
But then again, something like Living Social doing well, and many wonder, well, maybe it's a couple of companies will succeed very well. I don't know.
Right. So I think. I think the competitive thing is something that's important for people to understand because it's amazing how off I think people are on this. I remember when Facebook launched their deal service, there was an article on Read Write Web that was like. The headline was something like "Groupon is over." It was like just a matter of fact. Like Facebook is doing this. People don't understand what it is that makes Groupon great, and a big part of it is the operational excellence, is the human component, which is core to our DNA and is very difficult for a traditional, full-on technology company to bolt on. So that's a big part of it that I think people overlook. And again, I would just look at the evidence, and I'm not gonna. You can go and you can count the numbers, and there's data on this where you can see how the other companies, whether it's Living Social or Amazon or Google, are doing. But I feel very good about. Honestly, I feel like our biggest competitor is ourselves. If we screw this up, it'll be because we failed to execute. It won't be because of some ninja move by one of our competitors. The second issue is on taking money off the table. So there's a number of different ways to address this, but I actually think I actually strongly defend the practice and think that if you have a startup, you should take money off the table if you can find sophisticated private investors early on. I think it's a great practice for startups. And the reason why is that it alleviates the pressure to be short-term focused. So I took some money off the, I'm just going to be super candid. I took some money off the table, several $1 million.
Yeah, you didn't take that much compared to the hundreds of millions of your partners took.
Right. Well, everybody has their kind of number that lets them sleep at night. So for me, I hit my kind of I kind of hit my threshold where I felt like I didn't need to think about money anymore. And then things will come along in the history of your business that opportunities to sell your business, stuff like that, that you will be more inclined to entertain if there's that financial pressure, in addition to kind of forcing you to not think about what's in the long-term best interest of the company, but instead to think about your own financial well-being. So I think if we want a world where every company sells to Google or Microsoft or Amazon, then continue to criticize entrepreneurs for taking money off the table and make it a taboo practice. That's the way that I think about it. Also, if we wanted to, if we didn't believe in the business, we would have had opportunities to make a lot more cash than we did by selling essentially 10% of the business. So I think it's just a way of it's a good best practice to hedge along the way, even with almost like turning off how you think about the long-term success. Any financial person will tell you to diversify your portfolio no matter how much you believe in a stock, and that's kind of, I think, what our early investors were doing.
Well, that's a very creative reply, I will say. And I think there's, it has certain logic. On the other hand, considering it's only a 2-year-old company when it goes public, you certainly had the ability to sell after the IPO too, if you're an investor. So I don't quite get the time frame issue there.
We had enormous demand from investors that were falling over themselves to invest in Groupon.
That is true.
Getting those.
I also didn't understand that, but it's true. There's no question
and this was before the IPO. Getting those investments was a net benefit for Groupon, because we were able to bring in a strategic benefit. We were able to bring in really smart people around the table, like Mark Andreessen, John Doerr. We were also able to bring in mutual funds, the kind of companies that would eventually be good long-term shareholders once we became a public company, and familiarize them with the story before the media perverted it during the quiet period. So it was a benefit for the company. There's 2 ways we could achieve that benefit. One is by diluting all our shareholders and issuing new stock. The other is for existing shareholders to sell. And remember, these are sophisticated people that are buying, that we're selling our stock to. So to the degree that we're screwing someone,
that's legally required, actually.
Right.
Yes.
To the degree we're screwing someone, if you believe that we are screwing somebody,
I didn't say that. I'm just saying I didn't understand.
Right. Then it would be these really, like, the most sophisticated investors in the world.
Actually, a lot of them made money already based on what your market cap is.
None of those people that we sold stock to are complaining about the insider selling.
It's fascinating. I will say this, and I'll give you a lot of credit as a manager for somebody who came, thought you were starting one company and ended up doing this. You kind of quick on your feet, changed to a different business model. And how many employees do you have now?
10,000.
That's amazing. And how old is the company?
3 years.
That is doubly amazing. I mean, let's face it, that is amazing. So, it's one of those stories that's never been seen before. So there's a lot of anomalies to it that take some digesting. I think that's just a granted as far as I'm concerned.
I think that's true. I think that's a big part of it. When I think about it, if you take a 0 off of everything that's happened to us, then it looks very normal. It's just no. That's a good point. We've grown enormously fast. We've grown enormously fast, and it's reflective of the size of the opportunity. Local commerce is the largest market out there, and we've found a model that works, and we've been able to scale it by expanding to many countries very quickly.
I don't think we were loaded with time, unfortunately, because there's so much we could discuss. But one of the interesting things about your business is that, Mark and his company have enormous influence over your international expansion. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you think about that, considering that, that's 10,000 people are all over the world, right? And I don't know, just quickly describe how that structure works with Samwer's, having a special kind of role in the international business.
So Mark is our head of international. He reports into me. him and his brother, Ollie,
who are otherwise VCs. Yeah, this is an unusual role for them.
Right, but Mark is 100% on Groupon. Can I embarrass you for a minute? Sorry. So I think, just to be frank, sometimes I read stuff about how the Sammers have a reputation for cloning, and it's kind of, and I think before I started a business, I might have looked down on that as well. But what people have to realize is that the idea is the easy part, and execution is the hard part. And Mark and Ollie are the best operators that I've ever seen in my life. They're inhuman, and we're super lucky to have them on the team and helping us grow this. And we couldn't have built such an amazing global organization without their help.
Well, obviously they're pretty busy too, with 10,000 people. And how many of those are outside the United States of those 10,000, roughly?
I think it's about 7,000 or 7,000. Yeah. Wow,
wow. Well, do we have to end? Where's Marcel? I mean, the clock says we're over here. Is that really necessary or what? Is anybody, Hubert, can you tell me? Do we have to end here or can I keep asking questions?
If this was a sleepover, we'd stay up all night.
Well, I will say, one thing, your candor up here is very impressive, and your willingness to subject yourself to it is great, and it suggests why you, as this, young guy, have been able to play this role in a company with 10,000 people, and I have to give you a lot of credit for that. Maybe we should have a couple of audience questions, because I think it's, there's so many things that could be asked. Who has a question, a very probing but interesting, respectful question? Here. Wait for the mic here.
Hi, Andrew. Jason Rapp from Mahalo.com. You mentioned getting into new areas. What kind of products and which new areas are fertile ground for you, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you about a few things that we've launched recently that I'm excited about. One, and this is an example, kind of as Groupon, as more of a technology company, is a rewards product, which is kind of a modern day upgrade to traditional punch cards for merchants. So it's pretty awesome. The way it works is you take your normal credit card, which you have on file with Groupon. You go to a business that accepts Groupon rewards. You swipe your credit card to pay. You don't even know that it's happening, and you start accruing reward dollars. And the merchant sets some kind of a threshold of $200 or whatever. At that point, then you unlock a Groupon that you can take and use at the business. So it's a way to kind of supercharge retention for merchants.
You've launched that already?
Yeah, we're piloting it in the United States right now. It's rolled out to a couple hundred merchants. And we'll continue to expand it. But it's just it doesn't require any special hardware for the merchants. We've done it through partnerships where we can tap into the credit card and debit card transaction flow of these businesses. They get amazing analytics on all of their transactions, and it's really a great service for our businesses that we're offering, and adds a lot of value, obviously, for consumers as well. So I think that we have that, which is focused on retention. We have Groupon Now, which is our real-time deal service, where in the 25 cities where we've launched it, you can find a deal on whatever you want, whatever time of the day, on that's hopefully within a couple of blocks. And that's about real-time yield optimization for these local businesses. And then Groupon Daily Deals are it's customer acquisition. So we call that suite of services the Triforce, which is a Zelda reference.
It's a what reference?
The Triforce, the Groupon OS Triforce for local businesses. And we try to get them signed up for the entire suite of marketing services so that they can focus on being awesome at whatever their craft is, and then we can be their customer dial.
Okay. Next question. Anybody else have one? Okay, right back there. Can we get a mic to that guy?
Hi, Eyal. Question is, what does Groupon do to better educate small business people about how the flow of coupons and traffic and revenue really affect their margins and the real financial KPI of their business?
Great question. So this is something that we focus on obsessively, is how do we arm our merchants with the data they need to construct the right offer for their business and do the best thing for their business. And frankly, it's something that we've learned and gotten better at over time. So some of the things we do, we have a really nice Merchant Center application for our businesses. It's launched in the US and we're rolling it out soon internationally. It offers analytics for these businesses, and it has what we call an ROI calculator, where they can enter some of the essential data about their business, their cost of goods, et cetera. And we use that to predict, to basically calculate how much money they're going to make. And we drive super hard to get businesses to use that, because we found the businesses that actually measure the ROI of their Groupon offer, if you look at their satisfaction level, it's higher than those that don't. So just simply the act of measuring and so they can see the data of how it's helping their business makes merchants happier. I feel, one of the things that for me has been the most depressing is sometimes there are stories in the media of a merchant that has a bad experience on Groupon. And that's true, that'll happen from time to time. We try to make it never happen, but Groupon is advertising. And you're never going to get a 100% satisfaction rate. We have a 90% satisfaction rate, and it's probably higher than any other form of advertising that's ever been that's ever existed for local businesses. But we'll continue to try and make it higher. I think to some degree, the plane crashes are more interesting to cover than the safe landings. So they tend to get picked up.
No, that's all the press does, by the way. Yep.
Oh yeah,
press prefers that. Yep. We do.
Yeah. But we're I guess heartened by the fact that businesses work with us again and again, and we have high satisfaction rates.
Unfortunately, now we got to end. But Marcel told me, even though the clock doesn't say it. The analytics piece is fascinating, and it's a huge opportunity. And it's interesting because Jack Dorsey was on stage yesterday, and we didn't talk much about Square, but this is what he thinks Square is going to do to differentiate itself from all its many competitors, is be a better analytics provider for its partners. And so clearly, given the number of partners you have, to the degree you can do that, you have a lot of opportunity. And I can see you've got a lot of opportunity in a lot of ways. We're all going to be watching with fascination. And I really do appreciate you subjecting yourself to my interrogation.
Of course, it was fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.